Hey, we did it right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it might be where you are out there. Welcome back to the live stream. My name is Jeff Fritz, and today is, what day is today? Today is February 22nd, 2021, and this is C Sharp with CSharpFritz. Welcome back. How you doing out there? It's been a few weeks. We had a President's Day holiday here in the States last week, but we're back and we're ready to write some more code. We're ready to talk more about ASP.NET Core and get you started and talk through those beginner questions you might have as we build on our foundation going forward and learning more about how to build websites, build web applications with .NET. How you doing? Look at how nice and sunny it is outside. This is amazing. This is beautiful out here. Let's take a look at the chat room. Let's say hello over there. There's the chat room over here on Twitch. Screamer83, hello, hello. Vincent, a.k.a. SmartUS19, hello there. Sleepy Developer is here. Hello, good to see you. Mr. Joe B, how's it going there? How's life? Well, things are going well. Thank you for asking. Jason is here. Good morning. CTI Geek. Good morning to you. Zovek, hello. Good morning to you. Good morning. Good afternoon, Shy Sharp, Ancient Coder. Happy Monday to you. Stelzy is here, and so is Fabio Basio, IT, all the way from Italy. Good to see you. Thank you so much for tuning in. I feel like I made a slight faux pas last week. Last week or the week before, I was giving a demo for an Italian-based conference. And the demo that we had prepared, it's a demo that we use a lot, centers around pizza shops. I wasn't sure if that might have been just a little bit either pandering to the audience or inappropriate, but I thought we understand. I think we can all appreciate a fine pizza. So good to see you. Thank you so much for tuning in. How you doing, everybody? I want to talk about some of our topics today. Around ASP.NET Core. Let's get a little bit further into building now services. Those are things that run in the background while our application is actively handling requests that come into it, and talk a little bit about something called CORS. We'll learn about CORS here in a little bit. We might. I'm not sure we're going to get to filters. We'll see. I wasn't able to pull together a demo in time about filters, but maybe we talk about it. Maybe we look at some of the documentation that's out there and see where we get to from there. So let me take you over to where to go to our GitHub repository. Actually, let me get the music started first. I always have music playing here in the background when we're talking, hanging out together, writing code together. Today, of course, we're going to be listening to Stream Beats from our friend Harris Heller. This is the synthwave playlist that he has there. This is music that's free for you to listen to, free for you to have in the background of your streams, of your YouTube videos. Check it out. Completely free for anybody to use, no rights issues that you're going to run into. You can find it at Spotify, Apple Music, all the places that you can find music on the internet. Check it out, Stream Beats. Thank you so much, Harris. Really appreciate you sharing your music with us so that we can listen to it and have a good time writing some code together. Let me get featured chat up and running here. I already see some questions coming in. Let me get that configured and we can start. The AMA tag is on. You can see there's an Ask Me Anything tag just below here. So I'm happy to answer your questions as long as they're on topic. As long as they're .NET questions, ASP.NET questions we're talking about today, we can go in and talk to them. I don't want to talk too much about, we had a recent preview that was announced for .NET 6. That's going to be coming in November. There's nothing for us to really talk about as far as features that are going to impact us that are in that preview release. As we get closer to the .NET 6 release, we'll start talking about that live on stream and the impact that it's going to make on us as C# developers. Hello to you, Stephen Likens in Belgium. Good to see you. Chris Jones, hello, hello. Ancient Coder, you are spot on. So, Fahim, this is a question that I get a lot. I'm happy to answer it here. Fits in really nicely right here. There are three types. Are there now three types of .NET? .NET 4.8, .NET Core, .NET Standard. This is a common bit of confusion, and it actually was a lot worse. Because there was a point where we had almost 6 different .NETs. .NET Framework 4.8, that's the version of .NET that ships with Windows. You've known about, this is the version that we've been using for 20-some years that you typically hear folks refer to when you say .NET Framework. You can build Windows applications, web applications that run on Windows. That's about it. Yeah. There's also Xamarin hanging out there. There were other flavors of .NET for UWP, for Windows Phone applications. Right, did I mention Windows Phone? Windows Phone was out there. So the ASP.NET Core team wanted a cloud-focused version of .NET that they could ship that would be optimized, not desktop-focused, but optimized for running in the cloud. And .NET Core was born, while some of the other versions of .NET disappeared. .NET Core has a bunch of innovations in it that we want to make sure that we address and we share with the other .NETs. So .NET Framework is no longer going to be receiving new features, new active development. If there are features needed to support Windows, that's great. .NET Framework is part of Windows, where .NET Core is cross-platform. Runs on Windows, Mac, and Linux, and is open source from the start. Every part of .NET Core, open source. Xamarin, hanging out there, there's some things that we want to learn and do and integrate with Xamarin, and we still want to be able to build for .NET Framework, be able to target those. So instead of using a technology that we had for a few years called portable class libraries, a new technology was invented called .NET Standard that defined interface definitions. And those interfaces were implemented by some of the .NETs and not by others. So .NET Standard is something that you can target with your class libraries that will run on various instances of .NET frameworks. So you have .NET Framework, .NET Core, .NET Standard. .NET Standard is just an interface that you code against. It doesn't actually compile into code until it merges in and is referenced by either .NET Framework, .NET Core, or Xamarin. Now, as we look forward and we have .NET 5, we've brought Windows Forms and WPF into .NET Core. Well, with .NET Framework being sunset as the preferred .NET to work with and being a Windows-only feature, .NET 5 is where we're developing going forward. We're going to bring in Xamarin, and that's what .NET 6 is coming in November. So there are several different .NETs out there. Yes. For you as a new developer going forward, target .NET 5, target .NET 6. Target .NET Standard if you need to be compatible with older versions of Xamarin and older versions of .NET Framework, that being 4.8 and earlier. If you need to go across the various .NETs, then you want to target .NET Standard with your class libraries. You can't target .NET Standard with Windows Forms, WPF, or ASP.NET. Doesn't work like that. Those are actual applications that get developed and deployed. They need to bind to a runtime. So, so I understand why it's confusing. I hope that clears things up a little bit. And let me know. There's a lot going on there that can be a little bit confusing. Bottom line is, we hope by the end of 2021 that everybody's doing new development on one .NET, .NET 6. I would play that clip from the Highlander, There Can Be Only One, because going into 2022, there can be only one .NET, and it will be .NET 6. So, I see a bunch of comments here coming through in the chat room. Let me pause and grab some of those and bring them in here. Charles is here. Hey, Charles Galuli. Potato quality. Good to see you. Let me grab. There's a comment from CQRS. Comment there. Stelzy's here. Hello. Let me grab some of these and line these up. Ancient Coder comments, understanding CORS is important, as it can be a pain if it's not configured right. It can be. It can also be a little bit of a help. We'll talk about that. We'll get into CORS a little bit here. Potato Quality chimes in here. There she is. Excited to see. I switched to the Audio Technica. Yeah, BPH S1 headphones. I'm using the boom microphone instead of my full-size microphone here today. There's been some construction going on the house here around me, and I don't want it to bleed through on the sound here. Excited to learn about beginner C# stuff too. We're a little bit further along in the series here, so we're going to talk about hosted services today. And I think for some of our friends here that are on Twitch, I think you're going to see. I'm returning to a sample that we looked at a few days ago, a few sessions ago in SignalR, and we're going to talk about adding a service to that. And I think you're going to see a very familiar sample here, so we'll take a look as we get into that. Stelzy chiming in here. I see .NET Core and Standard as a necessary step from the older days of .NET Framework to a modern way of doing things open source and in a sensible way on all operating systems. Spot on. As we want to support folks, no matter where you are, no matter where you're writing code, whether it's on a desktop machine, it's on a Mac, it's on a Linux device, it's on a little IoT device, it's out in the cloud. Hopefully it's a nice blue cloud, nice fluffy Azure colored cloud. We want to make sure that there's a .NET there that works great for you and is compatible with all the other .NET, so you don't have to go and learn 3 different programming languages, 3 different base class libraries and references and things. One .NET, so you can go across all of it and have a good time writing code that scales appropriately for the environment that you're working on. So Stelzy's in the right place here. I completely agree. Let me grab a couple of more comments here. Is this CHTHY? Is that Kathy? Is that what that's supposed to be? Hey, CSharpFritz was confusing at first with CQRS. Yeah, we're doing CORS, not CQRS. CQRS is a architecture pattern it's a little bit complicated. It's not something standard that you'll see folks use. Something like onion architecture that you'll see a lot of folks use around object-oriented programming. But CQRS architecture is a little bit further along. I might not. I'm not going to be doing CQRS in this series. I might do a CQRS session maybe a little bit further along. We're going to get into Blazor starting next month. But CQRS is a little bit further along and not exactly a programming language or a framework scenario to discuss. We did do a design patterns session in the last series. Maybe I can find a way to squeeze in some CQRS in after Blazor. I'll take a look. I'll keep that in mind. Next question here is from Sinfire 2015. Any plans for the VisualStudio streams to target beginners in .NET or C#? That's what we're doing right now. This is an ongoing series we started about 6 months ago, back in September, with some very beginner topics. Let me head over to the code and let me show you what I'm talking about here. That'll that we can I can point you back to and we can get into. So this is everything around this series runs off of GitHub repository, and I don't think I turned on the command in Stream Elements. Let me head over there and turn on the command. But you can get over to this GitHub repository. If you're watching on the YouTube channel, check out the link just below. But all the samples are in here. The samples from today will be in here as well. Let me head over to, come on, give me the VisualStudio channel. There we go. But there are samples in here. There are notebooks that you can click into to learn the basics of C# live in your browser. So I'm going to click through to here, and this will load up, and it'll load up a Jupyter notebook for you to use. Let me go to chat commands. There they are. Where is it? Custom commands. Let me turn back on. There we go. Fantastic. So when this loads up, you'll be able to see there's some great, very basic notebooks that you can go through. And I also want you to check out the YouTube playlist. There it is in the chat room. C# with CSharpFritz on the .NET channel. And if you're watching on YouTube, hey, you're already here. Just go back in the playlist. The whole first season we did, there's about, what, 10, 12 episodes that are nice and very beginner friendly, nice discussions, just like we're going to see here, going through and using Jupyter notebooks to interact with, and see, we haven't touched the notebooks in a while, so they have to get them up and running again. But it'll get you started, get you running, so that you can feel productive and learn a little bit more about C# in a nice, no impact way. Nothing to install for you, runs all in the browser when it eventually loads. It's taking a good old time here. So I'm going to give that just a few more seconds to load, and then I'm going to be upset. So let me head over. Let's see the other questions we have. Lithium says we have to do something amazing with SignalR. Let's see. Let's see. Fahim has another question here. I've developed some applications over the past few years. What are the technologies that should be on my stack and I should embrace? There are a lot of technologies. Should I invest my energy and time like Angular, Vue, Knockout, Node? Cannot master them all. This is going to be a question of what do you want to accomplish? What do you want to do? Do you want to be a web developer? Do you want to be a game developer? Do you want to be a mobile app developer? Figure out and get a little bit of focus where you want to go with your career and the technologies you want to learn. Folks that are doing web development would say, oh, you have to learn Angular. The year after, oh, you need to learn Vue. Knockout, forget Knockout. Nobody uses it. Folks don't use Knockout now. Folks will tell you, if they're web developers, they'll say, oh, you got to use Node. It's good to have some foundation in Node and understand how that works. There we go. It's good to know a little bit about each one of those frameworks, a little bit. Know where to find the information, know where to get started. The issue that you're going to run into is some of these JavaScript frameworks almost become religious debates. Oh, you should be using Angular. No, you should be using Vue. Oh, the new one you should be using is React. Next year, there's going to be another one that everybody wants to use. They've all been around for 10 years. Choose the one that makes you happy and stick with it, but be flexible enough and be aware enough in how you use JavaScript so you can change to other frameworks. So, why don't I ever go live on YouTube? Because I'm a Twitch partner. I'm not allowed to go live on YouTube. I am contractually a Twitch broadcaster. Languzia asks, where can I find all the episodes? Right there on YouTube. Check out the link. aka.ms/C#_with_CSharpFritz. And if you're watching right now on YouTube, because you're watching the recording, it's right here or just below. There's a link to the playlist. Check it out. Get over there and you can have a and you can go through there. Let me grab a couple more questions that I see popping up in here. That's an interesting little debate. I'm happy to answer this. There is not a true stack to rule them all. There is not. Know enough to be able to go around and use the various parts of JavaScript so you can adapt appropriately. No, Chicken Man. I am contractually, so that's not something I'm going to test. And my counselor has told me, don't go near there. It's not an issue. Gabe asks, will 2021 give us a new and shiny version of Visual Studio? 2015, 2017, 2019, seeing a pattern here. The team hasn't made any announcements about it yet. They're working on building new features, and they're continuing to patch 2019. Certainly feels like 2021 would be appropriate. But I don't think they want to rush something. I think they want to make sure that they deliver a Visual Studio that is, as I see other folks talking about here, the things that are feature rich and that provide significant new value and that necessitate a new version of Visual Studio. The current model in Visual Studio of making new features as extensions means that they can update various components of Visual Studio separately from each other and allow those to be delivered every 3 months. So that's pretty cool. That works out very nicely and means that you continue to get free updates to Visual Studio, and they are just made available to you without having to install a brand new version. So are we going to see a new version in 2021? Don't know. We'll see. There's definitely conversations around new features to be added to Visual Studio. They're always planning, always investing time in making the product better for everybody. Are they going to decide to snap to a new version? We'll see. There's some really great folks out there that are going to be making that decision, I'm sure, over the next, well, they would have to over the next few months in order to ship a new version before the end of the year. And even then, that's kind of pushing it. Jeremy chimes in and says, Visual Studio Code isn't as feature-rich as full Visual Studio. If you're a beginner in Visual Studio, yes, they look very similar, but Visual Studio has a lot of depth. There's absolutely, in full Visual Studio, profilers, test runners, other things that are built in to help you debug and run through and do multi-threaded interpreting of your application a lot better than in just Visual Studio Code. Yes, however, Visual Studio Code, for a lot of folks, is enough of what they need. I cannot go live on YouTube. I'm sorry. I am not allowed to go live on YouTube. You should have joined in September. That's why the recordings are over on YouTube. So, YouTube is kind of horrible for interaction. Yes, absolutely. And we're going to see some of the Twitch interaction here in just a minute. Stay tuned. Wait till you see. As I really appreciate it, and I like keeping the AMA open here. First time seeing the idea of C# intro lessons as notebooks. Yeah. So you can jump into these notebooks, and you're welcome to download it. The source code is all sitting there. In fact, you can download and run them natively, and there's even a here we go. There's a Docker container here. You can clone and run these natively wherever you'd like. So, right, I clicked into classes, and I can interact and run this code live in the browser. No problem. Here it is rerunning now. Then it's going to come back. Boom, done. So, no big deal. That's real easy. I wrote a lot of content here for you to go through and check out and read and learn and tinker without having any issues with a compiler error, with something crashing. It's all in your browser. It's going to run great for you. You're new to Twitch? That's great. Welcome in. Let me see here. I was on Pluralsight. They no longer want content from me. That's fine. So, you can find a lot of my content on Wintellect now. I'm building new videos for them all the time. Is that Charlatati says, Team Visual Studio Code works well for Blazor development. Yes. I've been quite happy with Visual Studio Code on my Linux machine for Blazor development. It's been tremendous. So, doing really well there. All right. Let's talk about background services. Is the next topic we're going to talk about here. We'll see that in a minute. So, we've walked through, we've talked about building things for ASP.NET Core, for interacting and where'd that other window go? There it is. For interacting with web content that is built and runs on the server. We've learned how we generate HTML and we serve it out to folks that are making those requests, and we've learned how to use SignalR to use things like WebSockets to make a live connection to clients that connect to our server. So we can have two-way communication. We can send requests and get immediate responses over a WebSocket instead of having to render a bunch of HTML and paint the screen, right? So the next question is, well, what happens if there's things that I want running in my application kind of behind the scenes in another thread, we call it, a background service, that are doing something, listening to what's going on in the application, and when something happens, respond to it, and oh, hey, I need to go do this thing, and maybe it makes something visible to my application users. Maybe it takes care of and saves something into a database, writes something to disk, right? A typical application of this would be something like generating thumbnail images for photos that are uploaded to a storefront website or something, right? You upload an image, a background thread sees, oh, there's a new file here on disk. I need to take that really big high-def photo and let's turn it down into a 200 by 200 thumbnail that I can display on the web. Somebody can browse through, see it, click, and open and see the big image. So how do we set that up? How do we do that interaction? And that's where we're going to jump in today. We're going to start talking about services. We're going to get into CORS here a little bit and talk about sharing resources across our web servers, our web applications. So let me head back over. I had a Visual Studio Code open over here. Yeah. So this was the SignalR demo that we did a few weeks ago. Okay, let me close this over here. We don't need to see that. And we set up this concept of here, we'll close that for now. We'll get back to that in a bit. We set up this concept of a hub. There we go. That was receiving information. You were clicking on buttons on a screen that looked like, yeah, it's in here. Screen that looked like this, and they were popping up on screen. But this isn't really where we want to be. And we also set up and we showed a timer function that ran in the background and every second repainted the time on screen. So this communication and that timer are things that would be really cool if we could do behind the scenes. I don't want you interacting from chat with this collection of buttons over here. You're in chat. I don't want you going to another website. Why not interact with chat and do the same things? And what about that timer? Well, that's clearly something running in the background, and it's sending out and saying, well, go update this number on screen. That's clearly something that should run in the background. So we're going to talk about an interface called IHostedService that you can use to do these things. Small tests, small steps. So I had defined right here, and I keep closing this thing and it keeps opening. I had defined this thing right here, a timer service previously, and I kind of skipped over. I was like, it's a timer service. It's going to run a thing, and we'll see it do its thing. And this is the first service we're going to talk about. This is a typical class that you can build. We know how to write classes, but it implements this IHostedService interface. An IHostedService is something that can be registered and runs in the background, and it's really got these two methods in it. And let me close up the rest of these. It comes with and it defines these two methods: start async and stop async. Start the service and stop the service, and it passes this thing called a cancellation token in. Cancellation token. So a cancellation token is just a way for you to programmatically say, cancel, stop anything that's looking at this token. I'm going to send a message to it that says, cancel, stop running. So inside this interface, I'm going to define, go execute some task. And I've got that further below where it's actually going to do the timer operation. And this is going to return and say, okay, the task is completed. Yes, the task is completed. Or if something has happened and we stopped, return the state of that task so ASP.NET can go and do something with this. Jeremy, I'm going to come to that question in just a minute. That's a yes. Yes. Let's come to that in just a minute. So stop clearly is, well, just stop processing. So we have another cancellation token passed in, and if our task doesn't exist, well, stop. Otherwise, and we'll talk about this, but make sure that that task stops. What I've done is up here when this thing, not there, I've added an extra, what they call a cancellation token source. This is that thing that generates and manages the tokens, and it creates a new one here. So I've kind of created my own instance inside of so I can hand off to. So I pass along the token, this thing that occurs inside of here to say, hey, you're going to wait and check this thing to see if it's going to cancel, to see if it wants to stop. And inside the stop, it actually goes and tells that token source that I had up here. It says cancel. We're stopping the service. You execution tasks that are running over here that's going to run forever, cancel. Now, the execution task comes out of the execute method. And this is a pretty standard pattern. Execute is not part of IHostedService, right? Only start and stop are part of it. So you can do whatever you want to start and stop your processing inside those two things. Let me grab your question there, Lan. So inside my execute, I'm saying, well, if the token that was passed in, while it's not saying cancel me, go send out to all the clients that are connected to my SignalR hub, send them a notice that the time is now this minutes, this seconds, and delay 1 second. Do it again. So here's my little timer that's just going to send out the current time. And when my service has stop called, right? Let me close that. Right, so when stop is called, it's going to cancel that, which is what was passed in here. So that cancel happens, and this will break, and it'll exit the function. This little task when any just make sure that this thing stops. Okay? Otherwise, timeout infinite, and the last little bit here is, well, it checks if this is told cancel, then it'll cancel. It'll eventually be force stopped at that point. So we're not really seeing anything here that is too earth-shattering. There's a dispose method here also, so that if stop isn't called, well, it'll stop the execution anyway. So this is pretty hands-on, very low level. I'm controlling how my service starts and stops, and I'm just counting is all that I'm doing here. It's really very simple what it's doing. And I believe I have this running in the background. Do I have it? I don't have it running in the background. Let me close that and reopen. There we go. Let me go back to here and sessions. Go to this one and no, 2. Yes. Come here. Come here. There it is. That's the one I want to be in. Let me get this running down in here. Yes. .NET run. Yeah, see that? It's already got one running somewhere. Where? Because it's not in here. Oh no, it is running. It is running over there. Alright, good. Good, good, good. So I have it running already over here, and if I go back, and it's in the move shape demo, there was a timer. There it is. So my timer runs from SignalR, and it's just running in the background and sending a notice to all the clients, hey, this thing is running, right? So let me bring this over here. There we go. See, they're all being notified. Here's the time to display at the same time. So, okay, no big deal. But this is a very simple service that's running in the background. Now, Jeremy asked a very good question there. Kind of spoiler alert, moving into the next topic. Well, should I use IHostedService or BackgroundService? So, I've declared, and I have this sitting out here as an IHostedService. And I tell ASP.NET to run it in the background by saying add hosted service, and it starts this thing up and stashes it in the background. There is, if you look at this, right, all the things that I'm doing around start to define a task and manage the start and stop of it here, and as it stops to go and send cancel information into it, this is pretty boilerplate stuff that a lot of folks are going to do. If you just need to have that forever task hanging out here that's just running infinitely and sending information out, right? For the purposes of this, really, all that stuff under start and stop is garbage. It's not business logic for this service. It's control logic, starting and stopping things. So, let's go and take a look at implementing that with a background service. So background service is an I-hosted service that has a little bit more of those features around start and stop already built for you, so that you don't need to go and write all of that control feature. There's a sensible control set of features already built for you so that you can focus on the one method that it does require you to implement: execute async. So I've gotten rid of all of the start and stop stuff, and all I have to do is execute. So to the question of, well, which one should I use, it is a best practice. If you don't have to do anything specific or interesting in your start and stop, in your setup and your cleanup methods, this is really easy to do. This is the way to go. If there are things that you need to do for setup and teardown of your service, it makes sense to build out and get a little bit more low level into the IHostedService to do that. So I'm going to just change up my startup here. Instead of having timer service, I'm going to run better timer service. And we remember from our SignalR session, we've injected an iHub context. We've injected a reference to our SignalR server so that we can send a message to all the attached clients and say, here's the time to go display. So I'm going to save that, stop, and restart this. And we'll see this in just a second. Back running. There we go. And here it is. It's doing the exact same thing, but I've eliminated that control logic that's sitting in there and managing tasks and cancellation tokens. What a pain in the neck. You want to focus on just building your business logic so you can do this instead. So let me back up now. So Lane Ling asks a question here. I'm passing along a new token, not the one passed in from the caller, to start async. So if I go back to the other timer, the one being passed in here is if they need to cancel the start operation. So what's being passed along over here is the one that's going to stay in memory with this class as it's running. Once start async finishes running, right? So it sets up and connects this task. Once this finishes, that cancellation token goes away. So either I need to stash a reference to this, or be aware that it's going away. So not something we want to hang on to. This is appropriate if you're doing something long in here and you need to get out. Then before start async is finished, then you want to listen and look at the cancellation token. So this one's is only around if you want to cancel the start process. So because I hand off to another method, right? So this starts and it returns a task object immediately. And it's not completed, so this doesn't happen. It returns and says, okay, I'm done starting. So that's kind of what we want to see happen here. I'm done starting. So now ASP.NET can rely on and say, okay, in order for me to stop that, I need to actually call stop. And that's where over here, calling stop, I can now reach into the internally managed token and say, stop this. You may have seen other folks do this with some sort of, instead of doing a cancellation token source, you've probably seen folks set up something as simple as just a Boolean here that says, fat fingered it, that says is canceled. And in here, just do a thing that says is canceled equals true. But over here, instead of this, say while not is canceled. And that's kind of clumsy, kind of awkward, because that Boolean could run into some threading issues. You could have some contention setting it and interacting it with it, where the cancellation token source will properly lock and set that value and send notice to everywhere that's looking to inspect it appropriately that, hey, this thing is no longer set to be the cancel has now been activated. So this is a very simple implementation, but the cancellation token source is a little bit more multi-threading friendly. And when you think about web servers, when we think about a request that's coming in, somebody browses to your website, typically that's one thread. So you have one processor thread that's handling everything in that request and delivering the HTML, the output, to the browser. Conversely, though, when you have something running behind the scenes like this, this is running on its own thread, isolated, and other threads are telling it start and stop and how to interact. When many people are requesting access to our website, that's lots of threads that are being handled, and we as web developers don't have to think about juggling across those threads. But when you start thinking about services like this, now you need to start thinking a little bit more thread safe and multi-thread friendly. And thinking multi-threaded is a topic that we haven't gotten into here on stream, but is something that can get confusing quick. So Lane continues here. This is a good follow-up question. How else could you use a cancellation token other than in a while loop condition? Does every background service need to essentially be in an infinite sort of polling loop? Not necessarily in an infinite sort of polling. So this type of pattern here, where you're polling like this, polling, right? I'm not right. I'm polling to say, well, is this canceled? There's other architectures that you would see folks set up like this. A typical one you'll see folks use is called pub sub, publish subscribe, where some sort of a queue mechanism is set up and entries are put onto the queue, and you have something listening for messages from the queue. It's listening for new messages while messages are on the queue. Do these things. But if cancel is called, exit. And it still listens for that cancel, so it knows, oh, service is ending. Cancel. Get out of Dodge. So. You were thinking of stop async as an internal teardown rather than a public method. Yes. Yes. It is a public method, public to the rest of the service. Right, to the rest of the application. So when the application is closed, when the system is shutting down, it calls that stop method, right? The ASP.NET knows how to call stop, and you want to be able to gracefully stop your background service from running. So, hey, Robert Tables, good to see you. Event-driven distributed systems. We're not going to quite get there. Is that Pike's Dev? Pike's Dev? I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Pix Dev? It looks like async task from Android API. So, Android API built on top of Java, right? Async await. Async tasks with await were... They were delivered on C# first. And Java picked up, and those have been available. So all of those language designers are inspired by each other. You see a lot of cross-breeding. Features appear in one programming language, and they start appearing in the others. So yeah, that's very much available in Java. You also see it now in JavaScript. TypeScript, it's available as well. Defunct asks, do you think in this kind of multi-threading on .NET you need to worry about deadlock starvation? This is designed, working with IHosted services or background services. These are designed to function independently on their own behind the scenes. You can certainly get into deadlock starvation with it. Absolutely. You can hit deadlock scenarios with this without question. But they're trying to push you towards better design patterns that will prevent deadlocks from happening. But it absolutely can be done. Yes. All right, I'm not entirely sure the answer to this one. What's the difference between value task and just task? I'm not entirely sure. I thought the difference was one returns a value type and one returns returns a reference type. My async await skills aren't that strong. I would have to look this up. So I'm going to apologize that I don't have a complete answer for that, and I would have to look it up in the docs. My apologies. So, okay. We've got a timer here. Big deal. Want to do something a little crazy? Let's get a little bit more realistic in not just outputting time. Let's build a service that actually does something. Let's do a little bit of live coding, shall we? We're here on Twitch. Some of you are watching on Learn TV. Those of you watching the recording over there on YouTube, there's a chat room. I'm not monitoring the Pubble chat room. We're going to need to start looking at the Pubble chat room here in the weeks ahead as we bring on chat Q&A over on Learn TV. But if you're here on Twitch, there's a thing that goes around. And you can build these on many different platforms, not just Twitch. You can connect to Teams. You can connect to Skype. You can connect to all the different things. You can create a chatbot. And a chatbot is nothing but a service that sits behind the scenes and listens to chat. When an event happens, raise a message, send a message somewhere that says, ooh, a thing happened that we're interested in. Go do something with this. So let's take a look at writing a service that connects to Twitch. So I grabbed, this is from TwitchLib. This is a free and open source library that you can use to connect to Twitch, to interact. And I'm actually going to connect to VisualStudio channel here. So I've actually grabbed their initial sample. Let me grab the GitHub for them, and I can bring that over here. There we go. TwitchLib. You can find this on GitHub. It's on NuGet. Very easy for anybody to install. Let me share this link so that you can get into this. But there's a sample here that shows you how to get connected to Twitch and listen for messages. You see where I'm going here, friends? So what I've done is I've created an IHostedService that takes in my configuration, and when this is constructed, it stashes the configuration, and I also stash my context, my connection to a SignalR hub. So what I can do here is come here, where is it? I moved them down here. When my service is started, go create a Twitch client and connect to Twitch. When my service is stopped, disconnect from Twitch and shut down, destroy my client, and indicate we've completed the task. So the client, the TwitchLib client, has some credentials, and I have those buried in my configuration, hidden off screen. And I have some throttling here so that we don't go too crazy. But we're listening on the VisualStudio channel, and we're going to get a message when we join the channel. We're going to have an event raised when a message is received, and when we get connected, we'll have a message happen as well. So there's some log messages that we can handle here. When we get connected, we'll have a message we'll write out to the console, and when we join a channel, I'm a bot connected to TwitchLib. Let's change this. There we go. That, I feel better about that. So that's pretty straightforward, but when we receive a message, let's do something with that. Let's raise this back so that ASP.NET Core does something interesting with our message. And this is a typical pattern you see in a lot of different chatbots. I'm listening, go raise something up. But this thing that's listening to chat is running on a background thread. Okay? So you don't directly interact with this on the website. It's just sitting there listening and responding to, in our case, Twitch chat. So when we receive a message, let's do something with it. So let's do this. Let's get a command out of the chat message that was sent. So the chat message has a message. Let's do this. We'll split that. And let's split it on the space character. And we'll grab whatever the first item is, right? So I then want to look at that and say if command starts with exclamation, if it doesn't start with exclamation, and let's call it exclamation emote, return. It's something else, go away. So now let's actually switch on the command. Okay. So, right, we know switch case statements. So if it's emote, and I've got a bunch of different emotes out here that we can tinker with. From right here. So let's have, let's call this one, let's start with smile over here, right? So if we see emote smile, and let's put a trim on the end of this just to make sure that it's just that. Case emote smile, here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna reach back to my emote context, clients all, send async, and I'm going to send a message. Oops, wrong one. Emote hub. There we go. So, right? Yeah. Because on the page that we originally had, which was here, we called send emote with whatever the ID of that thing was. So I'm just going to go over here and I'm going to call send emote. Where'd it go? Here. Send emote. And I'm going to pass, where is it? I'm going to pass an argument here, aren't I? Right? Yeah. And that argument for here, I believe, was 3. Right? Isn't it 1, 2, 3 across the top? Yeah, 3. So, send emote 3. Done. Now, I could put together a bunch of these. Let's just start with that. Let's just do that for right now. And I'm going to tell this to .NET watch run. And I've got a build error. Where did it go? Warning, warning, warning. There's my error. Is cancel does not exist. Oh, I still have that. Back over when I was tinkering over here. This thing. Go away. See that? I changed my stuff. Smile misspelled? You're right. You're right. There we go. So, there it is. It's running. So now, we should see... If we say emote smile... Nope, I'm not seeing it come through. Yep, connected. Do it one more time. Nope, I'm not getting it passed through. let's see, we should be getting messages here. Oh, I know what it is. I know what it is. I know exactly what it is. It's a... That's an upset dog. I need to actually turn on and say, hey, use the Twitch service. I should move that to this namespace. This. Services. There we go. That's going to restart. Yeah. Now I can go back up here and get rid of that. Alright. Right, you need to actually turn this on in order for it to know that it's connecting and doing this thing. There it is. Finish joining queue. Connected. There we go. Now, look, it's receiving messages, and it's logging out what's going on there. So now, if we do, right, the emote smile, should be hitting my method right there. One more time. Nope, I'm not getting it. Not getting it come through. Why you do this? Let's do this. Let's do... I mean, we can clearly see it coming through here. Command received. And now it'll rebuild, and we'll see it kick off here again. Is it plugged in? Yes. And you see it logging messages in there. Worth attaching the debugger. Nope. Nope. Command received. Emote. Not emote Emil. Emote smile. There. So, emote context clients all send async. It should be sending the message. And we should be seeing it coming through. Which... No, the dog did not eat my emotes. What did I miss here? What did I miss here? Thinking. No, hang on, go back to that. Right, it invokes send emote. And send emote is not send async fly emote. Rats. I named it the wrong thing. That. Rebuild, try this again. We got this. Not awaiting it? Nope. Because I don't want to wait for it to send the message. Just do the thing and go away. There it is. There it is. Now you can send emote smile and it'll send the smile emote. Now we got it. So I can add one of the other ones here. Let's call this emote up. And that is 6. And now that'll become available here. So, and this is why I'm dropping the extra text, right? So, there it is. Thumbs up. So now, right, with a little bit of tinkering there, and because I missed the one little bit, I have a background service that's listening to Twitch. When it sees one of these two commands come through, it sends that message to my SignalR hub, and my SignalR hub sends the message to the attached clients, and it pops up, and we see now those emotes appear on screen. So, right, and it ignores. If it doesn't know what one of those things is, it just doesn't do it. Okay. Right, I've created very limited vocabulary here. Nerd herder. Did that on a different stream, but we're showing just how simple it is to now have something that, at its very basics, goes and sends and interacts with OBS, right? Because the page that I'm showing here, that's embedded in OBS, is this page that is localhost/OBS, and this is connected and listening for messages coming in over the socket. So I'm using SignalR. I'm using my background service to listen for input from somewhere that isn't a website and pass that along to somewhere else. This is a classical example of that type of publish and subscribe. I'm listening for those messages, right? So the client is set up. The client object that's actually doing the listening is sitting here in the background, and I've set up a subscription. I'm listening to the on message received event, and when that happens, trigger this. There is also an on command, I believe, as part of this API. On chat command received, that actually some of that scenario that some of that work that I put in to trim down to just the exclamation point emote commands, this gets rid of and eliminates it just down to, here's the command name that was received, here's the arguments that were passed in. So for the purposes of making it very easy to see that I'm looking at your message, grabbing that text out and pivoting appropriately. So I can help answer that question here. So what's the factory pattern? So factory pattern is a design pattern that folks use that will appropriately create other classes based on the information that was passed in. So in this case, we have a pair of commands that we've defined. So we can define a factory that knows how to create these command objects appropriately. And when we need to execute that command to say, hey, go fly that emote across the screen, well, give me that command object appropriately and execute it and return that. So it'll, well, there's another pattern here that's a little bit more functional, an action dictionary pattern that I like to use that will wrap these up, and you can just do a lookup against that, right? Right, if I set up a simple dictionary, right, command dictionary with a string and, sure, int, no, I'm sorry, var, let's call this commands equals new dictionary. There we go. Then I can set these up and say emote smile. Sure. I should just make these text. Nah, it's alright. The other one was emote up, right? And that's 6. So I have that. So now instead of saying switch like this, I can say if commands contains key command command, well, grab this. And I can say, nope, that's not it. Commands, the command name that was passed in, dot, well, it'll pass that value. So Now that goes away, and my complexity is nothing, right? Because it's just handing off and saying, well, go find that thing and go execute it. So I just saved that. That should reload, reconnect. There we go. And now it still sends the messages. So, right, I can add those other commands, right? Right, let's add the wink. Right, that was 9. So we can add emote wink, 9, save that, and now without having to write a whole bunch of other switch case statements, because I'm using this pattern, right? Now there's that one. Okay, not bad. The point is, right, and so we learned a little bit about a design pattern here. But we've got this, yeah, string and func types, exactly. You can do the same thing, right? Very simple. Since they're all calling the exact same method and passing these along, no big deal, right? We did a little bit of refactoring along the way. So, background service runs in the background and interacts with, it runs on a separate thread, but I'm interacting with it through Twitch, and I'm sending messages back out using SignalR. I could put that message on a queue somewhere to be displayed on screen, whatever. Update something in the database, that's fine too. But in this case, I'm just writing out some messages that are being interpreted over here inside of OBS. So you can do some, you can send out those various emotes. And gosh, during the SignalR stream, we had people run a script to try and crash the stream, and that didn't work. So, moving on. Next topic I want to talk about is CORS. CORS is short, it's an acronym because everything in technology is an acronym because we're nothing if not funny with our acronyms here in technology. CORS is an acronym for Cross-Origin Resource Sharing. That's a lot. What's that mean? It's a way for you to limit folks navigating and getting things from your site, APIs, resources, fonts, JavaScript files, what have you, if they aren't requests that originated on your site. There's a couple things you need to know about CORS. It's not so much a security feature as it is... I had another browser running here. Where'd it go? There it is. It's not so much a security feature as it is something to kind of protect your website from getting abused. Let me show you. This is the documentation from Microsoft Docs. There will be a link in the notes, also known as the bane of all evil. Well, I wouldn't quite go there. There we go. So what you'll see here is, well, by default, it's origin only. Let's talk about this. Cross-origin resource sharing is a W3C standard that allows a server to relax the same origin policy. So, right, you can, by default, only requests from my website can come back to my website. You can navigate and come in. You can't request my images, my JavaScript, my APIs, my other things that are hosted on this website unless you came from my website. So here I am, I'm looking at docsmicrosoft.com. I can't go request fonts or images from docsmicrosoft.com if I'm coming from bing.com. I'm coming from reddit.com. I can't request and bring those resources that they're sharing over on mine. It prevents a little bit of, it's not so much cross-site scripting, but it prevents a little bit of folks trying to imitate your website. It's not a security feature per se. It relaxes security and allows some of those resources to be allowed to be accessed from other resources. An API is not safer by allowing CORS. No, it allows more folks to be able to interact with it. CORS allows the server to explicitly allow some cross-origin requests while rejecting others. So, like we're seeing over here, we're connecting over to Twitch, and we're interacting with Twitch's API. They're allowing folks from outside the Twitch domain to interact with those APIs. It's safer and more flexible than earlier techniques such as JSON-P. So JSON procedural, where you send it requested an API to be interacted with an endpoint that said, oh, when you're done, send the information back to this location. You could send people all over the place with that. This is, let's prevent other things from interacting. So, same origin means you have the same protocol and domain name. HTTPS example.com. Example.net is different. That's not the same. Part of that first block before the first slash is different. It's a different domain name. It's a different server. So you can't get to it. www.example.com is different because www is in there. It's different from that. So it would be blocked. It's a different origin. Right? This is HTTP, not HTTPS. That's a different scheme. That's a different protocol you're connecting with. Not going to allow that through. And the last one is on a different port. Servers have many different ports. You see folks make requests with HTTP and HTTPS. Those are actually listening on two different network ports. One is port 80, one is port 443, and it's effectively two different applications running. One is expecting a security certificate in order to interact with it. The other is not. It's sending clear text back and forth on the web. When you change and go to a different port, that's somewhere else. You're sending it to another server. You're sending it to another application. That's not allowed. If you have same origin very strictly wired into your application. You wish I did this before. We'll see. We'll see. So let's talk about this. You can enable CORS 3 different ways. Middleware with some policies. We like policies. We learned about policies when we talked about security, authentication, and authorization. There's endpoint routing you can set up to configure that as well. And there's also the enable CORS attribute that you can light up on various APIs and things to constrain interactions with those. So this is very much an API interaction discussion. So let's set up an API and let's talk about and build a policy and some middleware here that we can interact with. So inside this sample, I already put a CORS definition here. By default, everything is same site. It will not allow requests to come in from outside of your application. So when you're on an application and you're making requests to the server, so for example, here's my move shape demo. When it makes requests to the server here, let me do reload, there it is, right? So when it goes through and it's making this request to get into the WebSocket, okay, in the request headers here, not only does it have a cookie, host, origin right there. That origin, it's saying, well, here's where I'm coming from. Here's what referred me that I'm coming into this. Cross origin means that I'm trying to connect to a host that's different from my origin. You're not allowed to do that. So, right, that would get blocked if I had tried to make that request. Can I refire this request? Where is it? Right, so if I do edit and resend here, and I try and send this to a different one, right? So, right, request headers, request body, switching protocols. You're being rerouted. It accepts and knows that it's on a different URL, on a different domain, and it's actually going to redirect you over to the other one. So that's a little bit different scenario. Great questions coming in. Let me bring that up here. Let me bring that up. Give me 1 second. That's a very good question coming in. Yes, you can configure wildcards. We'll look at that in the middle, in a little bit. Yes, good questions coming in here. Let me bring these up. Aren't all requests for initial load of pages cross-origin? Yes. So the first request for HTML, the GET request for HTML, yes, right? You're not passing in an origin. Those are allowed. You're allowed to do that. However, the follow-up requests, when you go to get JavaScript, when you go to get some of the APIs and things that you might be hosting in here, well, we want to prevent folks outside of our application from accessing that. We only want to open them up to those folks that we do want to allow to come in. So first requests, yes, are always allowed. Yep. And consequently then, after you've connected to the website and you're navigating around inside of it, that origin is being passed around appropriately and you're in fine shape. So, but this is some of the pain that I'm seeing some of the folks in chat talk about. Oh, this is such a pain in the neck. It is. It is. And I'm going to show you how to open this up and get this working. Lane Ling points out, though, well, can't client-side just spoof the origin header? And that's why it's not a security feature. Because anybody can spoof the origin header. Absolutely. You can write your own HTTP client and spoof that. If you use the HTTP client that comes with .NET, it doesn't allow you to spoof it. We want you to be a well-behaved internet citizen, and you cannot clear out and rewrite the origin header. It'll rewrite that. So, hey there, Raiders from Eagle Hansen's channel. Good to see you. Thanks for so much for joining in. Really appreciate the raid, Eagle. Welcome in. Hello, hello. Let's see here. My name is Jeff Fritz, and we're learning a little bit about CORS today with ASP.NET Core. And yes, if you were using Postman or some other HTTP client generation management utility, curl can do this a little bit. You can kind of fake that out and change how that interacts and effectively spoof. This is why it's not security for your application, but it's security for your users, so that in their normal interactions on the web, their requests don't come through and get spoofed, get downloaded things that they shouldn't have access to. So, we define and we open up cross-origin resource sharing by adding policies. And a policy has definitions to it, including a name. And we specify, well, how are folks allowed to interact with our application? So in this case, we've added some origins here that folks are allowed to be referred from to interact with our application. They can come in from example.com, they can come in from contoso.com, and interact with our application. And we can chain together, because remember, anything before the first slash, right, all of this stuff over here, if any of that is different from where our application is hosted, not going to work. And you'll see this with services on cloud providers. On Azure, I've set up CORS limitations for who can interact with my search service. So unless you come from, are referred from my domain, you can't interact with search. Now, you also need a key, but we're limiting this, we're reducing the scope of how and when folks can interact with that service. Sure, you can spoof that and interact with it from somewhere else. Absolutely, can be done. So, we're minimizing. But we're preventing folks from getting clobbered here. Now, I mentioned things that are to the left here, we want to be able to change and allow. So I can say, well, allow any header. I don't care what headers you have. You're allowed in. Go ahead. Allow any method. Get, post, put, delete, patch, options, head, all of those HTTP header methods. Any methods allowed coming through on these. Or we can constrain and say only certain methods are allowed, right? Allow from any origin. I don't care what website you're coming from. You're allowed in. Go ahead. You can do that. That might be what you want to do if you want to build a publicly accessible API that you want folks interacting with. Sure. Okay. Allow credentials. We're going to allow people to submit credentials in their header so that they can interact with this. Fantastic. You can do that. You can also say, oh, you're not allowed to send credentials. And there's also something called pre-flight that happens as well. And you'll see this when interacting with APIs using an HTTP client. Do I still have... let me look at the network tab here. Refresh. Yeah, it's not here. Ah, darn. You'll see methods that come through that have an options method call in here, not just a get that happens in here, but it'll make two requests to the same location, and one of them is labeled options. It's just checking to see, well, what headers, what am I allowed to do with this API? This is doing a get. It knows what it's going to get back and how to interact with it. So, nothing too interesting to see with that one. If let's do this. Let's actually stand up an API here inside of this project so we can take a look. Do I have a controllers folder? I do not. So let's add a controllers folder, shall we? Make that a lowercase o, if you don't mind. Thank you. Add a class, and let's call this just value controller. I don't really want to make this anything too complex. Sure. Dot controllers, and let's just make a simple class. Value controller, and we're going to implement base controller. No. You're not gonna. You're gonna be difficult here, are you? Are you? There it is. Thank you. Action results. String. Get. No. And return hello world. So now I have an API. I'm going to go down into startup, make sure that we add controllers, not just Razor pages. No, no, no. Add controllers. Thank you. Oh, I need a route here. Slash API slash value. Endpoints map Razor pages, and I want endpoints dot map controllers. There they are. Cool. So that's going to rebuild, and we'll be able to connect in, and we should see this. Yeah, there we go. Good. Close that, and I'll go back over to here. And if I go to API slash value, I get hello world, but I should be able to see now. So I should tell me in here, response headers, request. It's telling me what server I'm coming off of. But if I made a request with options, it should tell me exactly where to go. I should be able to see the edit and resend where to go. What the heck is that? You're not gonna let me do this? What the heck happened there? Why don't I postman the request, because I can do the same thing right here. And it's not showing me. Do I have Firefox running? Let's do this over in Firefox. So, localhost 5001 API. There it is. F12. I should see. There it is. And I want to resend, edit and resend. If I change this to options, now what I get back, it shouldn't have sent me the payload. But access control allow origin, it's allowing all origins. You can come in from anywhere. Content type, date, server. So I can start to limit that, right? So I've got this my origins, and it should be adding that policy. And I should be able to limit it over here by saying, right, enable CORS, my origins. So now I'm allowing this to open up. Right? I'm always allowed to get it from the same site. But I'll click into here. Except, where is it? There should be. So now if I send through the options again, edit and resend. No. Response. Now, why is it telling me all origins? We've clearly limited the origins here. Builder with, oh. Try that again. Try that again. Resend. So there it is. See, I did the options method. Okay. And response headers, content type, server. Why isn't it telling me? Not the stack trace, the response. It should be telling me, well, here's where you're allowed to come in from. And it's not. Now I'm confused because that should have worked. Let me light up one of the other ones. One of the other options here. Man, listen to me. Other options. Because with it limiting this, it should be... Yeah, options returns the headers, and it shouldn't return the body. I'm not sure why it's returning the body. It's supposed to be limited there. But what you're able to do, and what I'm lighting up here, is I'm limiting who can access and interact with this. You can also not just add a policy, but you can also add a default policy. But, of course, this never works when you want to configure it and you run into issues with exposing your APIs. But here I am interacting and it's not doing it, right? So if I want to... Where is it? I want to specify the various methods. There's a way to specify... There it is. With methods. If I only want to allow post... Right, let's force that and watch it. Watch it get angry here. It should. This should choke and say, "Ooh, you're not allowed to do that." So if I do options, I get the 200. That's it. Because options is just probing. Hey, what am I allowed to do here? No, it's not outputting that either. Are you kidding me? All right. Let's do this. /API/value. Fulfilled response. Readable stream 200 OK because I came in from the local here. But if I tried to go somewhere else, I might not get it. It is same site, yeah. Yeah, that was a get, and that worked. But it is same site, right? So if I were to do... localhost 5000, different site, there we go. Cross origin, right? Access control allow origin missing, because I'm just doing a fetch. So you're not allowed to do that. So if I change this, and let's add localhost 5001, and retry that, give it a second here to finish rebuilding and rerunning. There it is. This is the problem that most folks run into is, oh, I'm not allowed to do that. Right? The origin was not sent. So typically when you do a request with an HTTP client, it should send the origin that it came from. Oh. Yeah, I'm trying to reach over to... Right, I'm coming in from HTTPS. Right, if we take a look at the network request that it made here, right, get on that, right, my origin is HTTPS. It threw an error here with the redirect. Right, it's kind of a bad example. And I'm trying to get it to pop here and show, oh, you're not allowed to do that. But we did have in here, where'd it go? Allow any origin, right? So that you can open this up and just say, well, anybody's allowed to connect. So now if I try, come on, finish rebuilding. No. Because it's not even passing it in. Right, I'm always able to pass to my same site, and that works. Right. But I was trying to go to the other instance of this that's running on 5000, and it's not. So this is, right, this is the pain that folks feel is, well, I should be able to get in there. So if I did go to 5000, this isn't going to work this way. Yeah. Let me remove the forced SSL. So that we don't get the redirect. There I am. So now I'm on the plain text one. And if I go to try and get to the SSL one, now I can get through. Right? I'm jumping servers. So with origin 5000, I went to 5001 and I was able to get data. It's opened up. Get rid of that. And I'll do it again to show that, well, you're coming in from 5000, you're allowed. Okay. But I can limit it back to just... Yeah, you can add both. Subdomains doesn't work. So I'm on 5000. I'm going to reach across. Access control allow origin was missing. You're on the wrong. You're on the wrong connection here. You're right. So this is by default blocking those interactions. So doing a get, reaching across, it shouldn't have reached. Why does it say 200 OK? Host 5001 origin refer. That's why you got the cross origin error coming back here. Okay. So you can open up, you can limit, you can define different policies for different APIs that you want opened up and folks to be able to interact with, but it can be forged. It does provide a little bit better constraint inside the browser for those folks that are behaving normally. So it's just a browser security thing. Folks that are interacting outside of it, like we just talked about, using Postman, using the console inside the browser, using curl or some other script, they can cancel out and change these headers appropriately, and you're kind of toast. Subdomains won't work, right? You need to add those subdomains in here appropriately. By default, the default CORS, right? The ASP.NET default, ASP.NET Core default CORS policy. Let me grab that. Really? I thought there was a document that said what it was. What the default policy is. Well, where'd it go? I don't see it. You can completely disable CORS also. I forgot about this. By saying disable CORS. And this is something that I know folks have run into as well. Just shut it off. I don't want that thing bugging me and blocking and interacting. Don't do that at all. Well, now you don't have any policy or anything to let folks through, so it enforces the same site. I believe the default is just same site. That you must be on the same site to let it through. But by doing, right, enable CORS, right, it was my origins is what I called it. Yeah. That'll rebuild. Ah, come on. You're gonna call me a liar? There it is, working. Localhost 5001. Oh. I'm on 5000. There it goes. And now I'm in. So, disable CORS you can set up to shut off and just have same site forced on everything. Enable opens up and allows other folks to get connected. You can wildcard subdomains, yes, but by default, you have to... There you go. Right. So... You can set this up so it evaluates, use some sort of a function to evaluate, is an origin allowed? But yes, you have to declare, by default, wildcards are not allowed. So you need to specify these things in order to open it up. So, makes sense, right? We're using CORS to expose and allow more folks to interact with our APIs, interact with our various components on the website. So, a lot you can do here, but you don't have to always give it a name. If you give it a name, then the only way to activate and interact with this policy is to reference that name. You can also specify a default policy that gets applied to everything by using add default policy, and then it doesn't take a name, it just takes a policy. So we can do this. Right, we can say, right, if maybe the default is just right, localhost 5001. I need an extra one here. Right, HTTP. There's an extra slash in there. Localhost 5000. So by default, sure, if you're coming in from localhost because you're in the debug mode, you can do this, and by default that works. But if you're coming in from Contoso, you're allowed in also under the My Origins policy. Otherwise, by default, only the local stuff is allowed through. So over here, Contoso is allowed in the one default URL here. I should add the other one for completeness. So because I specified My Origins, that default policy is not in effect, so I need to add both of those. But in other places, the same origin default policy is overridden, and it's just localhost. So this will also work in production. If I'm in production and I navigate to localhost 5000, if you're listening on that port, you're in and you can refer and you can interact with it. So things to be aware of when you're setting up CORS. But final thing that I want to mention is about I showed you the options bit. There is a way to specify how long that options response is valid. So if I go back over here, right, and if I I didn't want to resend. Edit and resend. Change this to options. Right, I mentioned this is called a pre-flight, where it's just checking. It's just doing a quick poke and saying, hey, what can you do over there? Did this not... I broke something. Semicolon expected. Where are you at there? Right there. Exactly. You can specify how long that options is allowed to hang around inside the browser. Right, so there it went and got the value. If I edit and resend and I say options, right? So the response headers, access control, that's what I was looking for. Allow origin, there it is. We're allowing folks in from localhost 5000. Content type, date, server, transfer encoding, but you can specify the max age that this thing is valid. So if I go back to here, right, I'm in looking at this. With origins, I want to do, where is it? Yeah, set pre-flight max age, and it wants a time span. So I can say time span from minutes, give it 5 minutes. So now when that rebuilds and runs, I'll get a max age that I'm allowed to hit that. So, reset. I should see that max age. Or not. Why am I not getting the max age? I'm getting the date. It should give me access control max age coming back here, and I'm not seeing it. That's what that should do. One final time before I kind of give up here and call it. Right, so there's that. If I look at the network... No, see, it didn't hit options. Do that by hand. Nope, it's not showing it. And now I feel shame. Wow. There's a max access control max age that it should be sending through. What's the advantage of setting it? It forces it to refresh and send the options request next time. By doing this, you're also then preventing that options request from coming through with every connection. And where it's checking and saying, am I actually allowed here? What options do I have that I can interact with? So, I'm not sure why it's not showing up here. Because it sure should be coming through. And that feels weird. So, to the Bengals, yeah, right. Well, I'm going to call it here. We are right at the end of time, the end of our time together. So, I am going to head back to the main screen. And we will call it a day. What I hope you saw here today was we went through, we did a bit of work with hosted services and background services. How you can get other features, other things running behind the scenes inside of your ASP.NET Core app. We looked at how you can turn on CORS and allow more folks to be able to interact with your application because you're going to allow different origins to connect to your application besides just your local hosted HTTP clients. You're going to allow folks to come in and interact with you. CORS is something that a lot of folks struggle with, but it's real easy to set up that policy and allow the different origins, allow different methods, allow different domain names, subdomain names to connect and interact with your application. If you're watching us on Learn TV, thanks so much for joining us. We will see you next week when we're going to be talking about building and deploying to Azure. Those of you that are watching on YouTube, thank you so much for watching. Stick around. There'll be another video next Monday right here. Check us out on Twitch live. Monday mornings, 9 a.m. Eastern. What is that? 6 a.m. Pacific, 1400 UTC, 1300 UTC. Depending on what time zone, what day of the year it is.